Tell us about what it felt like to be in front of the Lorraine Motel today in pressing your case.
Well, thank you so much, Lawrence, for having me on, and thank you for reading that letter from a Birmingham jail. I actually read that letter to prepare for my expulsion trial on last Thursday. But being outside the Lorraine Motel, I think, was a very sacred and important place to be. It was a place where a great prophet of America was slain. It was a place of crucifixion. And we went there today as a testament to resurrection, the resurrection of a reconstruction here in the South, the resurrection of multiracial democracy, the resurrection of people power over the power of authoritarianism. And so it was very important to be in Memphis because this movement that we're a part of, calling for common sense gun laws, calling for democracy, it's from Memphis to Nashville to Knoxville. That's the areas of Tennessee 3 that we represent. And it was very powerful to stand together, united, to say that we're going to welcome our brother back into the people's house on tomorrow.
Talk to us about reading Dr. King's letter from jail as you were approaching that expulsion vote in the House. What did you find in the letter as you were approaching that moment?
Dr. King wrote, "You deplore the demonstrations that are happening in Birmingham, but you have not expressed similar concern for the conditions that brought the protests into being in the first place." And as I thought about being expelled, I thought about that they were trying to expel us for a protest, but we weren't talking about the conditions that brought us to the well to protest in the first place. That was the conditions of weapons of war slaying our children and terrorizing our schools and terrorizing our communities. The conditions that would make it so that the NRA has ultimate voice and not the people of Tennessee. The conditions in which we worship guns at the expense of our children. In that letter, Dr. King talks about creative tension. They say, you created tension. You weren't acting peacefully. And while we were nonviolent, we were creating tension because we were trying to force a conversation. Because we had heard wait, like Dr. King says, but there comes a time where wait becomes never, where wait becomes, delaying justice, delaying conversation. And that's what we've seen time and time again. The truth be told, this shooting at Covenant was not the first mass shooting in Nashville. We had a mass shooting in a part of the area where I represent in Antioch at the Waffle House a few years ago. And if we don't act now, there will be another mass shooting. And so that's why we said no action, no peace. But reading that letter, I think it's sacred text. I think every American should read it. In Tennessee, they're trying to ban that type of reading from happening. But it's very important for us to know the lineage of liberation of which we are a part.
Yeah, it's been years since I read it. I reread it today, and it really bears rereading every year on this day or as often as possible. Governor Bill Lee of your state has now issued an executive order, clearly in response to your actions. I'm not sure this would have happened without you. And this executive order, as I read it, and I want you to clarify it for me, requires within 72 hours for certain information to be entered into the Tennessee instant background check system. That is presumably legal developments, possibly arrests or information like that. What is it? What does this executive order do?
Well, this executive order, and I actually met with the governor yesterday along with other members of the Nashville delegation, and I was sitting right next to him. And when he explained this, and the only issue with the executive order is that it expires when the governor leaves. And so, we want long-lasting legislation. And so this is, he's talking about some background checks. He's starting to ask us in the legislature to push red flag laws, something that Democrats have been fighting for years. But we know it's not enough. And that's what I told the governor yesterday when we met with him. I was sitting across from him. I said, Governor, this is going to take political courage and political sacrifice. We know he's endorsed by the NRA, the Tennessee Firearms Association, these very fringe extreme groups. But it's going to take him putting the lives of children in our state, the lives of our community members over the campaign donations of the NRA and the Tennessee Firearms Association. I really hope and I believe that the governor wants to be a good faith partner, but I know that there are extreme forces, even within this body, like House Speaker Cameron Sexton, who are trying to obstruct any type of meaningful legislation. Their solution is to militarize our schools, to have more police, to have more locks. One member said, if we have to put a tank outside the schools in Tennessee, we'll do that. But who wants to live in a society like that? Dr. King says, I want a society that is at peace with itself. That's what we're fighting for, Lawrence. And so the governor's executive order is a step forward, but it's not enough. We need universal background checks. We need a ban on assault weapons like AR-15s. We need safe storage laws. There's so much more that we can do, and I hope that the governor will step into this moment of courage and conscience and act for the people of our state.
The Speaker of the House, who we saw conducting your expulsion votes, has gotten a lot more attention than I think he wanted to by doing this, including attention to the legal question of, does he actually live in the district that he claims to represent in the legislature? That's usually not a question for a Speaker of the House. But that's being studied in a way that it hasn't been studied before. Do the Republicans understand what a huge mistake it was to follow the Speaker of that House down this road they went down, in which a week later, you're both back in office as members of the House?
I mean, I see a lot of conversations and hear a lot of conversations happening here. I'm here at the Capitol right now, where I think a lot of Republicans are even starting to see if the Speaker needs to resign. Speaker Cameron Sexton tried to flex this extremist authoritarian abuse of power, and it's backfired. You know, Newton's third law says that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that's what we're seeing here, is that what he planned for our demise, if I go to scripture, what you meant for evil is being used for good, to shine a light here in this Capitol. And so I think it's very important that the Speaker do some self-reflection. I've called for his resignation. I think that he is not fit to serve in our state. He's an enemy of democracy. He does not live in his district. I heard that when I went to Crossville to campaign and knock doors or talk to people in his district. And Cameron Sexton represents a darker day in Tennessee history, a history which was not about multiracial democracy, where people like me were not even able to walk into the legislature and serve as equals in this branch of government, as equals at the dais and in the House chamber. And so I hope that Cameron Sexton will do the honorable thing, and that is to resign and to bring some order and decency and integrity back to the House. I don't think that his own members are even comfortable with him serving, at least a few I've talked to. And so I hope that we see better days ahead. But no matter what, I know that power concedes nothing without a demand, and we must continue to push. And that's going to be these young people who restore the heart and soul of our democracy here in Tennessee.
Let's listen to what Senator Raphael Warnock said about you and Representative Pearson in the last hour with Alex Wagner.
These are young people still in their 20s. And, you know, I remember that there was another young preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. who stood up in Montgomery. He was 27 years old, the age of these young legislators. And the rest is history. So you never know the difference that your voice will make. But I'm glad that they decided to stand up, and by some stroke of grace and human resilience, they have captured the imagination of the whole country, and I hope pushed us closer to finally getting some common sense gun safety laws passed into Congress, and the kind of movement we need in order to safeguard our democracy.
What is your reaction to that?
Well, Senator Warnock, and I talked to him earlier today. I mean, that is just, it means a lot for someone who stands in the tradition of Dr. King, and he knows, you know, what it means to be in this work. And so to hear that, it's just a reminder that we are, you know, on the right side of history, that this happened by accident. You know, no one wanted to be expelled or wanted to be put, you know, in this platform. But we know that there's something beyond us working in this moment, that when they attempted to crucify democracy, it's really resurrected something that we haven't seen in Tennessee or in the South, I think, for a while. And it stands in the tradition of people like here in Nashville. John Lewis, he's from Nashville, as with the student movement, Diane Nash, Bernard Lafayette. And when Dr. King came to Nashville, he said, I came to Nashville not to bring inspiration, but to gain inspiration from the movement happening here. And that movement was led by young people, those who had the courage to sit in as a way to stand up, those who were willing to get on the freedom rise after they were bombed in Anniston. And so I come, you know, I'm 27 and the youngest Black lawmaker here. And I'm just so hopeful for the days ahead. And I hope more young people will run. I hope more young people step into our power, because if we were not powerful as a generation, they would not be trying to expel us and silence us. And so to hear Senator Warnock say that means a lot. And I hope that other young people hear that as well, because it's not just about us. It's about the movement as a whole. And I'm honored to be a member of that movement.